We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
The demise of the 45th president's chances of becoming the 47th appear to have been greatly exaggerated. Despite column inches proclaiming the end of Donald Trump's political ambition, the polling says otherwise. But perhaps this long-shot underdog status is precisely what the Donald has been seeking all along. Welcome to Liberty Nation Radio here on the Radio America Network. I'm your host, Mark Angelides. On today's show, we're asking why the Fourth Estate is now ignoring polling on the 2024 presidential outlook, how California seeks to suck in tax dollars from those who have already fled the state, and examine the state of play for the Second Amendment. I want to take a moment to say a special thank you to our listeners out in Hastings, Michigan on WBCH 1220 AM and 93.1 FM. Thank you for being here. Remember, this show is proudly sponsored by LibertyNation.com, where you can access podcasts, breaking news, analysis, and a range of biting and brilliant shows to whet your appetite for freedom and your fondness for the great American Constitution. To watch the legacy media, you might assume that the political career of former President Donald Trump is a done turkey. He's vilified, he's ridiculed, and he's deemed yesterday's man by the collective Fourth Estate. But it seems the general public wholeheartedly disagrees. What are the 45th president's prospects heading into 2024? Well, we're fortunate to have with us Liberty Nation's editor-in-chief, Lisa K. Donner, to answer just that question. Welcome back to the show, Lisa. I trust you're well and have your mental shield against propaganda in place.
It's good to be here, and I have not heard the phrase "a well-done turkey" before. That's very
It's because we eat turkeys on other days of the year other than the last Thursday in November.
it's a Brit thing. I know it is. Okay,
absolutely. Although goose is my preferred festive season bird.
All I can say is that you people over there on the other side of the pond eat weird things. That's all I can.
You know, Middle America, those who trap squirrels for dinner may disagree. So, Lisa, you wrote a recent article on LibertyNation.com where you detailed the reality of Donald Trump's position in the 2024 primary race and the presidential competition. What do the numbers tell us?
Well, the numbers are really staggering, and this is just a moment in time, and it is these are early days. But if you take a look at Real Clear Politics, it is Trump's world, and we're all just circling around his orbit, which is really shocking when you think about all that the Democrats have done to try to take him out. And so when I pulled up RCP this week, I was just blown away. It was column after column after column of polls showing that Donald Trump is ahead in the GOP nomination process, but also he's ahead when it comes to head-to-head against Biden.
So, I mean, the numbers, as you point out, they are looking great for Trump. The aggregate figure is all Trump. It's all Trump all the time. So why then is the legacy media reporting him as a dead ex-president walking?
Well, the legacy media is really the advocacy media for the Democratic Party, as we well know. But if you look at the new Harvard-Harris poll out this week, 45 is the clear favorite. They've, at the bottom, you have Pompeo, Scott, Cruz. Then moving up, you have Nikki Haley, Marco Rubio, but that's at 1% and 3%. Then you come to the big 7% with Mike Pence. And finally, you come to Ron DeSantis, who isn't announced in the race yet. And he polls at 28%. But Trump is polling at 48%. So, people might be talking DeSantis or mumbling DeSantis, but when it comes to saying in the polls who they want to vote for, it's Donald Trump.
I mean, that's going to be shocking to people who rely on their news from, as you say, these advocacy media outlets who deride Donald Trump and his prospects on a daily basis. I mean, he dominates every front page still.
Well, let's take a look at the media for a second here. Even the friendly media to Donald Trump, which was the last time around, the New York Post and the Fox News, they're pretty much finished with Trump, and I think he's finished with them as well. So that's interesting. He doesn't really seem to have any media out there that is willing to talk about him, not to mention that he's not on Twitter.
Yeah, you'd think. I mean, Donald Trump really is an expert at using the media, and I wonder if, as the particularly the Republican primary goes on, what he's going to do to drag the media into his orbit. And my guess would be it's more of the bombastic Donald Trump that we saw in 2016, who essentially grabbed the media by its collective lapels and shook them until it cried uncle, I guess is the American term.
Well, this is the funny thing. They're doing their damnedest to ignore him. But
Mm.
the truth of the matter is the media was doing much better with Donald Trump around. I mean, their numbers, their figures, their profit margins, he's good for all of them, and he knows that. But, what they're trying to do, what the media does best, I think, is they agree with one another very well. So the big corporate media in Washington, D.C., the famous Washington Daily, talked about the Trump team trying to consolidate support for a new South Carolina event, which will probably happen before this show runs. But anyway, the Rolling Stone magazine picked it up and said, so sad, Trump is having very little response from politicos coming to his rally. And, my response to that is, well, I don't think he really cares that much about the politicos. I think he cares about whether the people are going to show up. And by Jove, I'm sure they will.
Yeah, I mean, he can draw a crowd literally like nobody else. It's funny that you mentioned that Rolling Stone says that he has trouble bringing in high-level politicos to stand with him on stage, where the same outlets don't mention that Joe Biden can't get people in his own party as president of the United States to turn up at events that benefit their states.
Well, but Joe Biden couldn't get regular Americans to come to his rallies. I remember the one in Pittsburgh. It was like 6 people sitting inside circles for COVID. But you got the sense that, there wasn't a lot of people beating down the door trying to get in.
Yeah, let's jump back to those polls that you talked about, because obviously over the last few years, polling's had a tough time. Either they've been right and then they've been derided for being right, or they've been wrong and then they've been derided for being wrong. Why should we believe the latest collection of polls that indicates Donald Trump is ahead in both the Republican primary and the presidential?
Okay, because
election?
this is such a wipeout, Mark. When you go and you look at all the polls, it's poll after poll after poll. It's Trump by 13, Trump plus 17, Trump plus 20, Trump plus 8. Every single poll in the nation can't be wrong.
Yeah, true enough. Although they can be twisted by the aforementioned advocacy media. We both remember Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump back in the day. And I remember so many of my, let's call them more left-leaning colleagues saying, you just look at the poll numbers, Hillary Clinton is going to wipe the floor with Donald Trump. And what none of them did was dig into the crosstabs. And it wasn't until I showed them the crosstabs, the overrepresentation of Democrats, the skewing of questions, that it started to create a small chink in the armor. And then I'm not, as Lisa, you know me well, I'm not one to gloat over such things, but on election day, when Donald Trump thwarted Hillary Clinton, you can bet I was having a good grin to my colleagues on that one.
Yeah, well, this is in no way an endorsement of Trump. This is just an observation.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, you can't miss it. And no president in modern times has been elected without at least some support of the news industry. So, but he's not one to easily quit. And so if the polls demonstrate anything, it's that at this moment in time, he's got the wind at his back.
Yeah, I think that's warmly demonstrated by both the polls and the betting odds. Now, we're talking with Liberty Nation's editor-in-chief, Lisa K. Donner. Later in the show, we'll be discussing the ever-reaching tax claw of California and the latest news on the Second Amendment. But up next, we're back with Lisa on Joe Biden's most recent trials and tribulations. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5. Produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone. Hosted by Liberty Nation's
Hi, I'm
Lisa K. Donner. Joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors. Deconstructing leftist narratives. Debating the hot topics. And remembering to laugh. Join the official conservative safe
You only
space.
did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5.